in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to Game Within a Game podcast, featuring former pro basketball player, trainer, and coach, Marquis Navarre. The podcast that talks all things basketball, but also that game played by us all, that game called life. See, being great at this game ain't easy. It takes parents, coaches, mentors, guidance to navigate the ups and downs. On Game Within a Game, Marquis speaks to the athlete, the student, the player, the parent, the trainer, and fans alike. From connections to making connections, stories and more. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Instagram, and of course, comment, like, share. Game Within a Game podcast. Game Within a Game podcast. With the one and only Marquis Navarre. Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game, the podcast, with the one and only Marquis Navarre.
Happy Thursday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Reclassification. Parents holding back their kids in sports. A practice known as, if you want to call it, age manipulation, age cheating, depending on who you talk to. Some say you get more time on skill development. Some say, hey, the kid came out a little too small. He's already at a disadvantage. Let's give him another year to bulk up a bit. And some, they literally just want to cheat. Like, I need to give my kid a scholarship. Let me put him in the best situation possible, only to hit reality in college or not. But let's talk about it with Marquis, the pros, the cons, reclassification. Marquis, basically just like that's a brief summation on your understanding of reclassification, and then break down your view and opinion of it.
Oh, man. Well, it's something that, in the last few years I've been, like, you see how it's more popular and more normal. When I played in high school, there was, like, outliers and certain kids who did that, but it wasn't, like, a mainstream thing. But it seems like it's more mainstream now. And, for me coming back from Australia and coming back to America and, coaching and on this side, like, it's a topic that a lot of the players that I like do private coaching with or play on my high school team that I coach, that they're always talking about it. And a lot of my players, they're talking about it because they're playing in their normal, age grade, and they're going up against a lot of guys that are 2 or 3 years older than them. And it seems like there's a lot of, like I said, a lot more people who are doing that. So a lot more kids who are playing 2 or 3 years older than their grade. And for me personally, like when my players come to me and I look at this situation, or if I was in this situation as a player, like I still, like, I'll just tell you, like, you just got to figure out how to be the best version of yourself. You got to still figure out how to, regardless if other players are doing that, like, you still got to figure out how to get your competitive edge. And so for me personally, I don't, like I said, I didn't go that route, and I don't really advise my players to go that route so much. Like, I tell them to, it's tough to go against someone bigger, stronger, faster than you. But you got to learn how to deal with doing that if you want to continue to play. Like you said, most players, their dreams and their goal is to play college basketball. So, if that's the case, when you're playing college basketball, you're going to be playing against guys, 3, 4, 5 years older than you. So this is the opportunity that you can start doing that now and figuring out how do you play with those players at that level. Again, for the players that are doing it, like I said, I can't really speak on how it affects the players that do reclassify. I don't know how it affects them when they do get to the college level, when it does balance out, but because I just don't really have any close relationships with many players who have reclassified. But yeah, I'd imagine, once you get to that level, like you said, everyone balances out. So I don't know if it's a short-term advantage for a long-term reality check or, wake-up call or whatever the case is. But, my stance is, you got to figure out how to play against players that are bigger, stronger, and faster than you, no matter what, if you want to play at the next level.
Does the means kind of meet the end when a kid does get a scholarship for reclassifying, but then maybe it does even out when he's in college, but he ultimately got that scholarship. So even if he sucks for 4 years because he was bigger than everybody and stronger than everybody, and then he gets to college and everybody's the same, and he can't really do the same thing, the goal, I guess, in a way was met. So in your opinion, do you think if that's the only the parents' goal and that's their only goal and they don't really care about professional or the actual sports success, but just let me get him that scholarship and then we'll go from there, do you think that's a good look, or you still hold on to, battle and figure it out?
Well, again, I think there's two ways you can look at it. But the first, if you get to the goal and that's the way you need to get there, then, take that route. That's just that's just, if you're using sports as like putting all your eggs in one basket as sports to get to college, if you're using basketball as your sole vehicle and this is the only way, like maybe, like I said, maybe you don't have the financial, you don't think you have the financial means to pay for college, or you're trying to get a scholarship to fund that. So you're using basketball, like investing into basketball to get that scholarship, by all means. But the second way I think about that is, again, it's an academic institute. How does this decision affect you in an academic way? If it does, some players, like I said, maybe me personally, looking at it from an academic way more so would be more beneficial, Like I'd consider reclassifying myself so I'd had more time to study the academic side, so I can get a competitive advantage that way. But
you see that with a lot of grad students that are playing longer and I guess using those extra years that they normally wouldn't use if they went pro or just graduated. There's grad students, and there's a few in the tournament, I think on the NC State, the big man, I forgot his name, but he's a monster.
Yeah.
And I think he's a grad student, but there's been a few instances of that, expanding their education, but at the same time, their advantage too.
Yeah. So again, I think, like I said, but as a middle school player or a high school player, how does that affect you? Like it might, for a kid's point of view, socially, like you said, you see all the kids that you were in class with, now they're going into the next class and you have to repeat that class that you were doing the year before. Does that give you more confidence or does that take away your confidence? I'm not really sure. And again, that's just kind of a case by case situation depending on each kid and each family, I think, like I said, if I look back and I can turn back the hands of time, like I wouldn't reclassify myself for a basketball competitive advantage, but it would probably been beneficial to have, be able to redo some academic years because, I skipped some of the fundamentals academically early on. So it could have helped in that area.
Most def. I mean, growing up, you can speak on this as well. I think looking at it and seeing kids get an advantage by being bigger, stronger, faster, simply because they're older, I look at it on the flip side because growing up, especially in the 90s, early 2000s, the clout, if you will, the puff up your chest was if I was younger and could play with older.
Yeah.
If I was smaller and I'm still giving you that shit. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
was the confidence. That was what the goal. That's what everybody wanted to do.
Yeah.
I look at somebody like my brother who we classified in a different way. He was 2 years ahead
Yeah.
and was too small because he was 2 years ahead, and he skipped because of education
Yeah.
and went back.
Yeah.
Not because he was older, but because he wanted to go back and play with his own age.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was one of those things where, let me reclassify. I'm hanging up here, but I can't play in a way where I'm going to be starting and stuff like that. I'll just be hanging.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. So there's seeing that, and even people like you stepping on any court from, I'm probably guess maybe like around your freshman year to sophomore, you probably could step on any court, no matter the age, and handle your business.
Yeah.
Hold your own. You know what I'm saying? Even maybe even do more than hold your own.
Yeah.
And that for you, I'm sure, was that chip on your shoulder that, yo, I got this shit. I don't care where I'm at. And that's a level of confidence. So in a way, I kind of think it can hurt the kid's confidence, because there's one thing to dominate, and then get humbled. Because if I'm dominating, and my parents are the ones that put me in a position to dominate, with making me play with kids that are smaller, younger, slower, right? And then I'm pretty much being lied to in a way. You know what I'm saying? And the worst type of confidence is a confidence that came from lies.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that lie is revealed, or as soon as the truth comes out, or as soon as you are humbled, if you will, because you've never been humbled, I think that fall can be a lot harder to come up from if they had those small falls along the way. But your opinion on that?
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, all basketball players and athletes are insecure about something in their journey. So again, if I was playing against a kid like nowadays and I knew they were classified, that's what the first thing I would say to them on the court. We're like, man, your parents held you back because you were too slow. You know, I'm going to try to pick on that. So that's the first thing I'm going to say as a kid. And again, most kids, we're in here peer-to-peer level on the court. I say that to you, you have to be you have to digest that. You got to be like, oh man, and then, if enough kids start saying that to you, hey man, I think, why you got held back? Because you wasn't fast enough, or you couldn't score on people. Then again, I think, mentally it's going to be tough, mentally as a young athlete to understand how to navigate that and to block out that distraction. But again, I think, as you said, the confidence that I had, playing against bigger, stronger, even as an 8th grader, I was already playing pickup with grown men, and that gave me a different type of confidence. And, as you said, I think right now we do see an example of that. Cooper Flagg, who's one of the top high school players in the country right now, he actually is one of the examples. He reclassified the other way. He actually, he's supposed to graduate or be a senior the following next year in 2025, but he decided that he wants to finish this year because his goal is to get to the NBA. But again, he's a player who's at that kind of nationally kind of ranked position. He knows basketball is his future. He was signed to Duke and he decommitted. So he's at that type of level, that caliber of player. Obviously he's been in he's on the NBA draft board being predicted like a lottery pick if he gets drafted the following year. So, but yeah, you see at the high, at the top of the top, he's a example of a kid who's doing it the other way. And again, I think that just shows a lot of confidence. That just shows a lot of, I'm kind of ready to move on to that next step. I do want to play against, like I said, college. He's thinking of playing against pros, but again, every time you're thinking about playing at the next level, you are thinking about playing against bigger, stronger, faster. So.
So your thoughts on the new wave of homeschooling in conjunction with the AAU circuit or sports in general?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite quotes, I would say, was, don't let school get in the way of your education. So that was something that I actually learned after college or during somewhere along college. But yeah, don't let school get in the way of your education. So again, like I said, I work at a school, and like I said, the education system is kind of designed to help you, learn how you're going to deal with the real world when you get a job, a 9 to 5. It's a simulation of it. And now you see, like you said, now we've kind of moved from that kind of industrial way in a little bit with the entrepreneurial rave now. And like I said, people learn like using their own time to create their own, like, using their own time, their own passions to create their living. So as the world is shifting, you can see it how, like, the systems are like shifting as well. And again, so first and foremost, yeah, I like the, like I said, people taking ownership of their education, and taking it like their education, like that responsibility on themselves, and not like it's not all on the school. But as on top of that, that school structure and what that school does provide is an important part of, like I said, an athlete, essentially. Like if you want to be a successful athlete, you're going to have to know how to buy into, the code of conduct of how the world is moving and as a whole, Of course, there's outliers in them, but again, sports, it's an ultimate team thing, So, you being a part of a team, you being a part of a community, those are kind of things that school, like the system that school does help you with. Again, I just imagine like some of these players right now that are in high school, like I said, they're at home school, but they're allowed to play at a high school. Like they can decide, hey,
yeah, there's ways where you can be schooled per se, you know what I'm saying, the work, the paperwork, all that stuff at home, yet still be a part of that said school team. So for instance, it's the same way as if I went to a charter school and my charter school didn't have a basketball team.
Yeah.
If you're good enough,
yeah,
one thing, you won't have to go through all the loopholes and stuff. The coaches will do all that for you and be like, yo, you can play over. There's a way you can do that, because they'll just be like, yeah, let me get him. If you just want to play, but you can make the team and you can play, you can have your parents go through the proper systems, and you can play for a school that has a team, because or you have to go into the AAU circle. But when a kid is specifically homeschooled at home, there are ways where I can be at Yon homeschool at home, right? And then go to play at Vista High School for football or basketball, or El Camino High School for football or basketball, and practice there and everything. And I'm a part of that team. I just don't do everyday school life with the kids.
Yeah. So then for me, like I said, as a player, again, like as a high school player and a college player, that kind of just being on campus, that was, I don't know, that was a part of the, that was part of the pie, That was like being recognized as one of the basketball players and the athlete at school. And like I said, you make the connections with your friends at school, but also like teachers and staff members. So then when there's basketball games on, that's how you bring in fans. That's how you got people in the fans, like in the crowd, really cheering for you. So I'm just, like I said, as a high school kid, like I said, making those connections is, that's just a social aspect of life, So like I feel like, being a athlete, as a star athlete, being able to be the face of a program, or being able to be recognized as a program, like a part of a program, I think that's an important part. And you might be missing that part if you're just at home, if you're not at school, if you're not having that face-to-face connectivity with the other players in the community at your school, And again, I feel like it's a case by case situation because it takes the right family to be able to do it. Like I think some families might want to have that extra time to spend time in the gym, but they don't have the academic like habits at home to really, or even they don't understand the actual sports structure that they're actually supposed to be doing during the day. Like, again, I think like when you go to the example earlier, like a kid named like Cooper Flagg, or a kid that knows for sure, like sports is my avenue. Those kids already have pro habits. They already kind of been in pro environments where they worked out with pros. They understand what a pro workout looks like and like what a pro schedule looks like on a day-to-day basis, And, some kids who do the homeschool route so early, like they haven't even made their varsity team. Like they're just an 8th grader going into high school. You don't even know if they're going to be even a varsity player ever in their career. So they haven't even been in the environments and to, not necessarily know what it looks like to be at that level yet, So I think there's a timing in it as well. There could be some benefit from going to school and dealing with the structures there in that way until you prove hey, I actually, this is for sure my pathway. I know, people in the city are talking about me being, I have that actual chance to go to the next level. But I think sometimes it's kind of premeditated because, people are trying to keep up with the rest of the competition, so they might jump the gun.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into it, especially, like I said, the main motive. Is it sports? Is it education? Is it different things? But yeah, like that's a huge melting pot of conversation we can get into, but sticking to what you were saying with the player knowing they're that dude, knowing that they're going to be a heavily recruited player or whatever it may be, and using the more practice time or whatever it may be that homeschool provides to further elevate that goal. I think that's dope. And at the same time, with the socialization thing for kids, if you do know you're going to be that dude and you're practicing that much, the socialization is going to go down anyways. You know what I'm saying? You look at somebody like Kobe that came out of high school. One of his main things he always says, like, I didn't even know about it. I just ate, went to practice, and had no friends. So it's like there's a certain anti-social aspect to being great if that's what you want to do with your kid. I know this ain't a homeschool podcast, but I know for me, sports had nothing to do with the homeschooling. It's a whole different thing, but you want to hear that another time. But yeah, I think for the parents, it's all on the focus of what your end game is. If your child is that dude or that girl and you already know they're in 8th grade, then by all means, why not take advantage if you're not breaking the rules? Practice as much as possible, and how you want to raise them and their characteristics and their worldview, that's on you. But if sports is the end game in terms of career-wise, then what better way than to take advantage and spend more time getting better at, said sport. But yeah, I totally get it, man. If you don't have an educational organization or parents that are willing to sit and be there and make sure you're doing your work, you can end up
going backwards.
It backfiring on you huge. You know what I'm saying? And now you're just an incredible athlete that never even graduated high school. And that's a terrible place to be.
But again, I think just as an athlete, there's a component of, like I said, like if you don't actually have those habits at home, because again, some players might say, yeah, I'm going to spend this time to work out, but maybe their parents are still going to work. They have to still go to work, right? The kid might be just chilling most of the day, like you have a whole year of actually, I kind of got some shots up, or you did a little bit of like working out, but there's situations where, kids are like taking the year off, but they're not really taking advantage on the court or in the classroom. And those are the situations that we got to eliminate.
Yeah, man, it's a strange time to live in with sports, school, social media, you name it. But going back, and we'll close out this topic, but going back to the education aspect, I think players, and you can speak on this as well, athletes should look at being more than an athlete. Because you look at people like LeBron, you know what I'm saying, that has empires already, you know what I'm saying, set up. Kobe, that was studying, writing stories while he was playing because he knew after I have to be just as great in whatever else I'm doing. So, and then even people like Steph Curry getting into politics and things like that. Like everybody has like this other thing they're mastering while they're sharpening their craft and being a beast at said sport. So talk about the importance of education in that way where, yeah, I got to do the math, the science, the English and all that. And if I want to be a teacher, then perfect. Hey, let me lean into that. But maybe I have different ambitions to be an engineer, this, that, and the other, or work in architecture or work in fashion or whatever it is. There is an importance of taking that same level of professionalism and practice and work ethic to that other thing that you do as an athlete, because you don't have to be wrapped in and just, I'm just a basketball player. Now, you might be good at other things, or maybe you become and grow into the administration aspect of the sport you love. So talk about that and using education and kind of falling in love with education the same way you fall in love with your sport, because you're not going to play the sport forever.
Oh, man. 1,000%. that like I said, hindsight gives me that view of, more and more. But again, like separating what you do from who you are is so important, as we talked about many times on the show. And again, I think it's important, like even what you do, like I said, if it's basketball is what you do, who you are still has to have a career or a passion as well. Like, not a passion, because the passion could be the basketball, but you still have to have like another career job that you will eventually end up doing, because again, sports has a window. So again, the importance of actually developing in that along the way is so important, because you can, if you do it that way, you can actually use sports in that thing to create synergy, like through the sport, you can build like the connections that you're going to, work with or reach out to for the other opportunity, in some examples. Or again, once you retire, like, what are you going to do when you retire? Are you going to coach? Are you going to have those skills to get into coaching? You see a lot of former players getting into coaching, broadcasting, for me, it's like for me personally, like I say, yeah, I spent so much time like investing into the sport, and there's a few other careers that I wanted to do along the way that I didn't spend the amount of time that I could have before. Now I'm going backwards to I'm going, now I'm working at a school now, and I'm going to go back and get like my teaching credentials and working on what I'm going to do, quote unquote, post player still. And, I think that is just so important to look at it hand in hand, as you go around. Obviously there's times where you might need to put a little bit more focus and energy in one of those areas. Maybe you got to invest a little bit more in the sports side. There's certain times where you got to invest more into the academic side, but you do have to, again, you can create synergy if you build them both at the same time. It's going to give you more powers, instead of, two legs is better than one, so you're going to give yourself two legs to stand on. It's going to give you balance in life. It's going to give you stability. So I think that's super important. And again, we touched on it when we talked about recruiting and being recruited, it changes that aspect, because again, it makes recruiting a two-way street. When you know what you want to do academically, then you're not just waiting for any school to reach out to you, or you're not just taking any offer that comes to you. You're not just going to get up and move to any other city just because that's where the scholarship is at. You're going to look at, do you have what I want at that school academically? then I can decide if I want to go there and play there. So again, I think it's a game within the game. You know, basketball is the ultimate vehicle, but use the game and don't let the game use you. You know, use the game to be able to build a network that's going to help you way beyond off the court.
Yeah. Oh, it's time for GWAG Tip of the Week with former pro basketball player, now trainer and coach, Marquis Navarre. Now, some tips, they're for the game. And some tips, they're for the game within the game. Yet all tips seek to adjust that mind frame. So let's get it. GWAG Tip of the Week. GWAG Tip of the Week.
All right, for this week's tip, again, on this journey, I think we always have the end goal in mind. And every single day we're chasing that masterpiece. We're waiting to see that finished product, that from all those hours, from all the work and all that energy and effort put in, we want to see the finished product. But this week's tip is to really take a step back and really, step by step, like really look at your big picture and just break it down to smaller bites and smaller pieces. Again, when you're creating a masterpiece, and we get so caught up and are mentally like wanting to just see the finished product. But every day we need to just focus on that one part of the picture, We just got to focus on making sure we get that one part right. And again, I think sometimes when you look at the big picture and you're chasing it so much, you can kind of lose sight of the daily gains that you're making, because you might feel like you're not making that progress or you're not reaching that goal because you're not feeling and seeing that finished product. But really take account for those small steps on a day-to-day basis and enjoy the journey, step by step, brick by brick.
Thanks again for listening to Game Within a Game. This podcast is sponsored by Marquis Basketball. Visit Marquis Basketball on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call 760-213-4936. If you're a basketball player that wants to improve your game and take it to the next level, or a parent seeking to have your child learn the game the right way, Marquis Basketball is the place to be. The place to grow, the place where basketball dreams become a reality. Message Marquis on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call Marquis at 760-213-4936. Marquis Basketball, coaching and training for the next generation. Yes, sir, coaching, training, next generation. And speaking of the next generation and caring about generations upon generations, the Boys and Girls Club has always been a place of refuge for young boys and girls all over the country. Didn't have a place to play, you could go there. I remember the lunch, the little small juice box, the chip and the sandwich, you know what I'm saying, that they would give out for free on Saturdays at 12. So there's all these different community aspects that the Boys and Girls Club offers, and talk a bit about your story, your connection with the Boys and Girls Club, and some good news coming up for all you Oceanside hoopers with the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, man. For me, growing up, the Boys and Girls Club, like I said, probably once I was in 7th and 8th grade, I started going to the Boys and Girls Club mainly for basketball practice. The team that I played for, True Game, we practiced at the Vista Boys and Girls Club for a period of time, and then we also moved to the Oceanside Boys and Girls Club. And again, it was always like, I just remember their gyms always had a certain feel to it because there was always something different, you know. I remember, I'm pretty sure the Vista Boys and Girls Club at the time had like some plastic type courts or something. Yeah. Like it wasn't like the normal hardwood.
Like them tiles.
Yeah, some tiles. So that was like always a unique thing, like element of playing at that Boys and Girls Club. But again, yeah, that just bring me back little memories right now, just dribbling the ball in there and the way it bounced and everything. But again, the Oceanside Boys and Girls had the carpet floor, you know, and that was another like unique thing, like playing on the carpet and the way the ball bounced and the way it sounded. And I remember the mural in the Oceanside Boys and Girls Club. It always had like all these athletes on the wall, you know, from, you know, Junior Seau, obviously Oceanside legend, but it had, you know, I remember Isaiah Thomas, I'm sure was up there. It just had all these different athletes across the wall. And like I said, just as a kid, just remember bouncing the ball, and having our practices there, but just seeing the murals. And yeah, it was just that type of, like I said, it was just like a friendly type vibe, you know, like a good feeling to like just really play there. And, you know, like I said, my club team, we practiced there probably like 3 times out of the week. So spending a lot of hours there. And, you know, the Oceanside Boys and Girls Club also had like a little weight center on the other side, like just right across the street, connect to it. And I spent a lot of time in there after I graduated from college, and I came back home, and I used that as like my workout place where I was lifting and getting big, getting swole during the time. And you know, I actually did one time while I was lifting there, you know, I did meet Junior Seau, and that was like the first time I met him. And that was really cool because, you know, I just asked him, you know, some advice, you know, from a pro, like what was some pro advice, you know, from a Hall of Famer. And, you know, the thing he told me that he was like, yeah, everyone is good when you're winning. Like everyone shows up to practice, everyone's happy, you know. He said, but a true pro is how do you show up after a loss? And that really stuck with me for a long time. It really changed my perspective of being a pro. But yeah, just my little going down memory lane of the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm actually excited because now I'll get a chance to go back there and to run a clinic myself. May 10th. I'm going to be running a clinic there from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And again, it's a free clinic. And that was the thing that was probably the best part of the Boys and Girls Club growing up. That was a free place. That was a place where all the kids that didn't have money to do a lot of other things, the Boys and Girls Club had everything for you. And I think there was a time where that changed for a little bit, but now we're getting back to it. And again, I'm just super excited to be able to go back there to a place where I spent a lot of hours as a kid growing up playing basketball and being able to help the next, like I said, next generation of kids coming through Oceanside. And I'm super excited to, like I said, it's a free clinic for middle school players. So any kid in Oceanside looking to get their game right, or, you know, kids who are looking for an introduction to the game, come check it out. It's going to be for players, you know, from beginners or advanced players in middle school, you know. we just want to see all Oceanside's athletes there. And for me, again, just having that chance to come back, teach the game to, like, at a place where I grew up, and it's like a full circle moment for me. So I'm super excited about that.
It's time. It's time for Marquis Reacts. Part of that show where Marquis looks at a few YouTube videos, gives his advice, his reaction, his thoughts. Marquis Reacts.
I'm going to work every single contingency with my game on every angle, every court, tired. So I started running from the full court all the way into my threes because that's what happens in the game. So you figure all these guys running in transition, they come in and they shoot a three, and it's like you're actually shooting a shot that you don't practice. Full court running, deep sprint. There's 7 seconds on the clock, and you got to get to your lift, and you got to shoot that ball. And there's a 7-footer running out at you. What is your lift going to look like? You got to practice that. That right there. If I walk in the gym and see somebody shooting like that, I'm like, this kid right here, he's going to be problems because he gets it. But I walk in the gym a lot, including the kids I coach, and I watch them jump that high when we're going through shooting drills. And then when the game starts and we do practice, you see them jump higher. And I said, now you miss. They shoot the ball over the rim because now you're shooting at a different release point. I'm going to.
Yeah, like I said, how you practice is how you play. And I think a lot of, for me personally, again, like it was so important for me to emulate those game reps in practice because, when the game came, I was ready. I felt like, I've already shot this shot like a million times already. I had the confidence that I can shoot it and make it in those situations because of the reps that I did in practice. And as you said, like doing those reps tired is like the most important part. I remember like my coach growing up, Coach Greer, when we would work out, we would do certain shots and say we're doing 10, we're like sprint, back pedal to half court, sprint, and I'll bounce past you, finish the layup. If we're doing 10 of those, once you hit about number 5 or 6, you're already tired. Like you started to hit that wall. You're starting to feel fatigue. And I always remember him telling me like, okay, now these are the ones that count. Like, the 7, 8, 9, 10, when you are tired, these are the reps that are actually going to count. Like if you make them or miss or how your footwork is going to be on these shots. Because again, in a game, you're going to be fatigued. You're going to be, you have to do so many things in a game, in a workout situation, like you're just working on that specific shot, you're just running in, shooting that one shot. But again, in a game, you go from rebounding, from being in help side position to now I got to close out. Now I got to slide. I got to box out, Now I have to, from that box out, we get the rebound. Now I have to sprint the court. And now I got to come off that action that I'm going to shoot that one shot that I'm repping out. So again, you have to you got to condition yourself to be able to deal with that. And I see like a lot of players who miss shots in the game, especially they miss certain open shots. Again, it's because their legs are not there. Their conditioning is not there because their practice habits, they shoot their shots as if no one is ever going to be running at them, or they're never going to be running, like shooting a shot after, like I said, making a couple of defensive plays and then running and then finally getting their shot. But yeah, it's so important that you really push yourself to game speed on your reps because again, like once you get into the game, now it just feels natural. Now it feels like, oh yeah, I have the confidence. When I do feel tired, I feel like, yeah, when I feel tired, that's when I know I actually get more settled, like, when you hit that second wind or again, you find your rhythm in your legs once you kind of push through that initial fatigue.
When a girl makes a shot, if they're not jumping up and down and celebrating and they're not like in the game, that's being a good teammate. I tell them all the time, I can see a lot about how you respond to everybody else. When I take you out of a game and you come out of a game and you shrug your shoulders, like, really? You should walk to the bench and now you should cheer on your teammates. That's stuff that's got to be coached. Steph Curry said this on a video. It's the coolest thing ever. The weakest thing in basketball is sticking your hands up in the air and standing off like passing the ball. It's the weakest move in basketball because you can do 80,000 other things. You can cut, you can screen, you can relocate, you can move, you can go get an offensive rebound, you can cut back up. He said that's the weakest move in basketball. And I was like, amen. It's the bench when a girl makes.
Man, yeah, we can't say it enough. Like, being a good teammate goes a long way. And again, and this is what coaches pay attention to. This is what coaches focus on. And I think a lot of players, young players, the earlier that you learn this, the better, you know. If not, then again, it just becomes, you just continue to receive the criticism for having bad body language, being a poor teammate, and then eventually that's just going to cut out your opportunities because people don't, like, coaches don't want to continue to teach that character side, you know. We understand the passion and frustration and things like that, but again, there's still discipline that needs to be displayed. And again, there's, in a team situation, there's sacrifice. To the next point where he's talking about, you know, someone just standing there, like, just hands up, not moving off the ball because they just want the ball. Again, it's just poor character. It's selfish because, again, it's like, it's a me. Like, I want me. But again, the game of basketball is, you know, there's other things going on the court. So while you're thinking me, why didn't you give me the ball? You're just sitting there like clogging up traffic. You're just sitting there like not helping anything. You know, you're not creating an opportunity for yourself or me right now because you're just sitting here. Obviously, I haven't gave you the ball right now. So again, the game of basketball, you need to continue. Like, it's actions on top of actions on top of actions on top of action. So you can't, like, just sit there and just soak in your own pity, you know, if you don't get the ball. So again, I think, you know, this goes a lot to character. You know, what kind of teammate are you shows a lot, like what kind of person you're going to be.
Yes, sir. Closing thoughts. Had a lot of jewels. Don't let school get in the way of your education. What kind of player are you going to be? Actions upon actions upon actions. Episode 16. Your closing thoughts for the audience. And yeah, approaching 20 rapidly. Your thoughts on the show so far and the future.
Man, I mean, like I said, it's so much conversations about reclassifying and, you know, how to get the competitive edge, or if people are cheating or not, or which way to go. Again, I think it's important, you know, that all this stuff is a case-by-case situation. I think, but again, it always going to come down to how bad you want it at the end of the day. I don't think there's really any shortcuts to anything. I don't think, you know, there's different ways to get places, but there's no shortcuts to get places, if that makes sense. So again, you still have to put in the work no matter what you do. And again, always try to equip yourself with as much artillery as you can. So as an athlete, really build up yourself as a student. You know, don't just put all your eggs in that basket. Build up that student side, you know, and use that to your advantage as well. As far as like how the podcast is going, like, I'm excited, man. This is like, again, I just remembered wanting to start this not too long ago, and now we're episode 16, and I've been receiving a lot of feedback from different friends and people listening, so I appreciate everyone's feedback. And I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot along the way. And I'm still trying to get better at this side. I feel like this is a new, like I said, this is another part of the game. As a player, I had my player experience. As a coach, I have my coaching experience. But I feel like this podcast is just another angle, and I'm just excited. I do. Yeah, I thought I think I had like a accomplishment because I feel like I officially had like a troll, like someone trolling me. So that was also something that I feel like is the first accomplishment. When you got an official hater or somebody that spends their time of their day to go out their way to put you down, I appreciate that. So progress is being made. Progress was being made, and that was a sign.
Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. Be sure to click, comment, subscribe, and share at Game Within a Game podcast on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Game Within a Game podcast. Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Click, comment, subscribe, and share. Game Within a Game with the one and only Marquis Navarre. Thanks for listening.